My husband Mike has this best friend from college named Ashley. They've been friends for like 10 years, and I never had a problem with her until our wedding last month. We were at the reception, and my maid of honor pulled me aside looking really uncomfortable. She told me she overheard Ashley talking to one of their mutual friends from college. The friend was teasing Ashley, saying stuff like, "Well, you lost him, he was the one that got away." And Ashley snapped back, "She has him when she wants him, I have him when I want him." My maid of honor said Ashley's whole tone was weird and possessive, like she was claiming ownership of my husband on our wedding day. I didn't want to ruin our honeymoon, so I waited a few days before bringing it up to Mike. When I finally told him, he barely reacted. He just calmly said nothing ever happened between them and that Ashley probably meant it as a joke. But the way he said it was strange, too calm, almost rehearsed. I tried to let it go because I trust him, or I thought I did. Last week, my phone died while we were driving to dinner. Mike handed me his phone to make a playlist, and I started scrolling through his apps. That's when I noticed something weird. I went to his messages to text myself his location and saw all his recent conversations. His mom, his brother, his work group chat, our neighbor, but no thread with Ashley. I know they text because he mentions talking to her all the time. He'll say stuff like, "Ashley told me about this new restaurant," or "Ashley sent me a funny video," but there was nothing, not a single message thread with her name. I didn't say anything because maybe I was just being paranoid. But then last night I was sitting next to him on the couch and I saw a notification pop up on his phone. It was from Ashley, just her name and a preview of a message that said, "Miss you." Mike grabbed his phone real quick and opened it. When he got up to go to the bathroom, I checked his messages. The thread with Ashley was completely gone. He had deleted it right in front of me. That's when I knew something was actually wrong. If there's nothing to hide, why delete every single conversation? I confronted him about it and he said he deletes all his messages to save storage space. But that's a lie because I'd literally just seen threads from months ago still saved, so I came up with a plan. The next morning, Mike left his phone on the charger while he was in the shower. I grabbed it and opened Ashley's contact. Then I texted her from his phone. I wrote, "Hey, can we talk about what happened last weekend?" Just vague enough that she'd fill in the blanks. Then I watched the 3 dots appear as she started typing. Her response made my blood run cold. "I told you we can't keep doing this. Your wife is getting suspicious and I don't want to be the reason your marriage falls apart. We need to take a break." I screenshot everything and sent it to my own phone. Then I deleted the evidence so Mike wouldn't know I'd texted her. When he got out of the shower, I showed him the screenshots. His face went completely white. He tried to say Ashley was confused, that it was some misunderstanding, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I asked him point blank what they'd been doing, and he finally admitted they'd been meeting up for coffee and lunch without telling me. He swore nothing physical happened, but said he'd been confiding in Ashley about our marriage problems instead of talking to me. Problems I didn't even know we had. He said he deleted the messages because he knew it would upset me, but claimed it was all innocent. I packed a bag and went to stay with my sister. Mike's been calling non-stop saying I'm overreacting and that he never cheated, but the fact that he hid it, deleted everything, and let Ashley believe they were doing something wrong tells me everything I need to know.
Got laid off after 10 years in IT when my company decided to cut costs. My manager Brad basically threw me under the bus, telling upper management that my projects were behind schedule. The funny thing, Brad had been taking credit for my work the entire time I was there. For 6 months, I couldn't find anything decent. My savings were running out, and I was getting desperate. Then this staffing agency called about a temporary data contractor position. The pay was half what I used to make, but I needed something. When they told me the company name, I almost hung up. It was my old job, but then I thought about it. I'd grown out my beard, lost some weight, and started wearing contacts instead of glasses. Plus, I'd always worked behind the scenes. Most people there had never really looked at me twice. I took the job. Walking into that building again felt surreal. The security guard who used to nod at me every morning didn't recognize me. Neither did Karen from HR who processed my termination paperwork 6 months earlier. But the best part? They assigned me to work directly under Brad. He introduced himself like we'd never met, shaking my hand and explaining how the department worked. I just nodded and said I was excited to learn. Inside, I was dying laughing. The first week, Brad gave me tasks that used to be mine, fixing the backup system that had been broken for months, updating the database that he'd always promised to handle but never did. He acted completely clueless about everything, asking me basic questions about systems I'd built from scratch. I played dumb and fixed everything quietly, but I also started documenting things. Every shortcut Brad had taken, every time he'd blamed others for his mistakes, every project he'd stolen credit for. I left anonymous reports in the shared folders, detailed explanations of problems that had been ignored for years, screenshots of Brad's emails where he'd thrown people under the bus. By week 3, the whole department was running smoother than it had in years. Systems were actually working. Projects were getting done ahead of schedule. Upper management started asking questions about how the new temp guy was fixing things their full-time team couldn't handle. That's when they called me upstairs. The VP of IT sat across from me, impressed. "We'd like to offer you a permanent position. Your work has been incredible. Can you tell us about your background?" I smiled and pulled out my old employee badge. "Actually, I used to work here. You laid me off 6 months ago." The room went dead silent. "My name's Dave Collins. I worked in this department for 10 years. I built most of the systems your current team has been struggling with." The VP's face went white. He started flipping through papers, probably looking for my old file. "Brad told you my projects were behind schedule when you fired me, but those were his projects. He'd been taking credit for my work since day one. Everything I've fixed these past 3 weeks, those were problems he created or ignored." I handed over copies of all the documentation I'd been collecting. Years of Brad's incompetence, all laid out in detail. They offered me Brad's job that same day, with a 30% raise. When I I walked back to the department, Brad was waiting by my desk. He still didn't know who I was, but he'd heard about the meeting upstairs. "Hey, I heard they might promote you over me," he said, trying to sound casual. "That's crazy, right? I mean, you've only been here 3 weeks." I packed up my temp badge and looked him straight in the eye. "Yeah, Brad. 3 weeks is all it took to prove you've been useless for 10 years. The recognition hit his face like a truck. His mouth fell open. "Dave, but you look so different." "Yeah, unemployment will do that to you." Security escorted him out an hour later. I heard he's working at a gas station now.
So I need to give you some background first. I've been married to my husband for 3 years. We dated for 5 years before that. So we've been together a while. His friend group has this girl in it named Mary. They've known each other since high school, and she's basically one of the boys. She goes on all the fishing trips, the camping weekends, whatever. And honestly, I was totally fine with that. I trust my husband completely. But here's where things started getting weird. When Mary first found out I'm half Romanian, she got obsessed with it. At first it was kind of whatever. She'd ask me to say words in Romanian, wanted me to teach her curse words, stuff like that. Annoying, but not the worst thing ever. The problem was she'd always do it when we were out with everyone. So I'd be put on the spot in front of 8 people trying to pronounce stuff while everyone stared at me. Then it got worse. She started Googling random stuff about Romania and bringing it up constantly. One time at a bar, she literally asked me, dead serious, "So are you a vampire? Do you bite your husband's neck at night?" And everyone laughed like it was the funniest thing ever. I just smiled and changed the subject because what do you even say to that? But then she started with the gypsy comments. "I bet you've got some gypsy blood in you. Your family probably read fortunes back in the day, right? Is that why you're so good at reading people? The gypsy thing?" And that's just straight up racist. I told my husband about it after the 3rd or 4th time and he said he'd talk to her. He came back and said she didn't mean anything by it. She's just curious about other cultures. I was like, okay, sure, whatever. Fast forward to last week. Me and my husband decided to throw a little BBQ at our place. Nothing crazy, just some friends, some burgers, some drinks. My husband invited Mary. I specifically told him I didn't want her there because she makes me uncomfortable. He said he had another talk with her and she understood and promised she wouldn't say anything weird this time. So I said fine. The BBQ was actually going pretty well. Mary showed up and was being normal for once. We grilled stuff, people were drinking, playing music in the backyard. By midnight, most people had left and there were only 4 of us still hanging out in our living room. I was walking past the couch carrying a glass of red wine when I tripped over the edge of our carpet, like a full stumble, and the wine went flying, right onto Mary's jeans. I immediately started apologizing. "Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Let me get you some paper towels. I'll pay for the dry cleaning. I'm so sorry." Mary just stared at her jeans. Then she looked up at me. "You did that on purpose." I was like, "What? No, I literally tripped. You saw me trip." She stood up and her face was getting red. "You're a witch. You've always been a witch. This is part of some ritual, isn't it?" I thought she was joking at first, so I kind of nervous laughed. "Bad move. Don't laugh at me," she said. "I know what you're doing. You're trying to ruin my life. You've been trying to ruin my friendship with your husband ever since you showed up." My husband stood up and was like, "Mary, calm down. It was an accident." But she wasn't listening. She was on a roll now. "She's an immigrant gypsy trying to poison you against me. Can't you see that? She's been doing witchcraft or whatever they do over there. That's why you don't invite me over as much anymore. She's got you under some kind of spell." I started crying. Not sobbing, but tears were coming down my face because this was so out of nowhere and so mean, and I didn't understand where it was coming from. "Mary, I'm so sorry about the wine. Please let me—" "Shut up," she said. "Just shut up. You don't belong here. You never did." The other 2 people in the room were just frozen. Nobody knew what to do. My husband tried to step in again, but Mary kept going, talking about how I'd been manipulating everyone and how she was the only one who could see through me. Something in me just snapped. "Get out," I said. Mary stopped mid-sentence. "Excuse me? Get out of my house right now," she laughed. "You can't kick me out. This is your husband's house too." I looked at my husband. He nodded at me. "Mary, you need to leave." She looked between us like she couldn't believe what was happening. Then she grabbed her purse off the couch and walked to the door. Before she left, she turned around and pointed at me. "You're going to regret this. All of you are going to see what she really is." Then she slammed the door. The room was dead silent for a full minute. My husband came over and hugged me. The other 2 people quietly said they should probably head out and left. After they were gone, I told my husband that Mary is never allowed in our house again. Ever. He didn't argue.
Brenda has always been the kind of woman who sends back water at a restaurant because the ice cubes aren't uniform. When I first started dating my wife Sarah 6 years ago, I thought her mom was just a little particular. It didn't take long to realize she was just chronically entitled. She is the textbook definition of a Karen before the internet even had a word for it. She snaps her fingers at service workers she demands to speak to managers over coupons that expired in 2018, and she genuinely believes the world was built to cater to her specific moods. Sarah is a saint, but she grew up with this, so her default response has always been to just keep the peace. For years, I bit my tongue at family dinners when Brenda would insult my cooking or make snide comments about my career. I used to work in corporate finance, but 3 years ago, I took a massive leap and opened my own artisanal bakery and coffee shop. It was my dream. I poured my entire life savings into it, worked 80-hour weeks to get it off the ground, and finally it became really successful. We have a great local following and a line out the door most weekends. The problem started about a year